You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGackie, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers.
What is up, everybody? How is it going? I'm really excited that you're here with me today for this very special episode of the podcast. They're all special. These conversations are like gold. It's what I live for. I love doing this show, and I thank you for tuning in week after week so I can keep doing it. I really, really appreciate you. So, just a little bit of housekeeping to get out of the way before I get into this one with Addison from the JHS Show. First off, a little public service announcement. I want to talk to you about jerky. And no, this is not an ad for jerky. It really, truly is not. I just want to share something with you that I learned the hard way this weekend, and that is the expiration date on a bag of jerky, even if it's sealed and never, ever, ever been opened. It indeed is a real expiration date. Do not ignore said expiration date unless you want to pay for it with your, gastrointestinal system. Trust me, don't gamble on the beef jerky. I know it's supposed to last forever. This bag lasted about 2 years from the day I bought it, and I decided, let's go. It's only a couple weeks past the expiration date. It's jerky after all. And I'm here to tell you, that was a terrible decision. I had a rough time this weekend because of that decision. So please don't be like me. Use your brain. Jerky does not last forever, despite what I had formerly thought. So yeah. Also, the text chat is still down, unfortunately. I am trying to work with the company that I used for this, and it's being a little bit difficult. So I hope I can still use it. They're trying to switch me to a new plan that is going to be extremely expensive. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to afford to keep that going or not. But I will figure out something similar because I really, really enjoyed that method of communicating with everybody. So I'm still trying to figure that out. So if you've been texting me at that number and I've not been responding, that is why. So I'm trying to get it figured out. It's been kind of a nightmare. I will get it sorted as soon as possible. So apologies for that. But in the meantime, you can still contact me at info@tonemob.com or DMs or any other method. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. If you want to talk or you want to shoot me anything, I'm around. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this one with Addison, the unsung hero of the JHS Show. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have the legendary, the person that I call the unsung hero of the JHS Show, Addison Sauvan. How's it going, dude?
You got it. I'm good. How are you?
Dude, I'm stoked to do this.
Me too. This is a privilege.
I've been meaning to do this for a while.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I've told people a lot, mostly like off the air.
Yeah.
When I went to do the JHS Show, I was super impressed. I was like,
oh, thanks, man.
I was like, these guys are legit. Like,
we appreciate that.
I've told everybody, I was like, these guys are, I don't know what I'm doing over here. These guys are killing it.
Whatever. Thank you.
So, it was, it's like a TV station.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. You're running a lot of it. That's why I'm like, people see you up there, you're slapping to bass, you're doing the thing, but you're also doing all of the audio for everybody. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. You've got a lot of duties. So, it's very impressive. So I wanted to get you on to find out how all that happened. Like I kind of we've all seen the public facing, started with Josh just kind of talking about pedals, then Nick came in and it's grown. Now Joshua's there yelling at everybody, it's like a whole thing. But like, how did the show start and how did you get involved? That's why I wanted to bring you on. But I think I want to go back even further to when did you start playing guitar and bass and getting into gear, and basically take us from day one to where you are now?
All right, day one. So my mom is sitting in the basement, and she's pregnant with me, and my dad is drumming.
Yes.
So my parents are both musicians. My dad has been a drummer. Pretty much his whole life, really. And so my mom said that she used to sit in the basement and, while she was pregnant with me and my brother, my older brother, she would sit in the basement while my dad would, drum to his music and practice. Yeah. And so as far as I know, I have been a musician, my whole life, really, I started picking up instruments, I guess when you'd say when I could pick up an instrument. There's a story where my parents, I was in the basement, and my parents thought it was my brother playing, and he's way better than I am, a musician in general, and he's an amazing drummer. But I was 4, I think, at the time they said this, and they thought it was him playing, and he had, by this point was fluent drumming. And so that was the start of it for me. And then really, it's always just been a part of my life. I picked up violin in elementary school, 3rd grade, started playing that. And then I got my first bass, actually. So that was my first proper, stringed instrument, I guess you'd say. Violin was, but if you talk about, guitars. And so I got a bass when I was 11. And 2 weeks after it, I started playing in youth group worship team, right? And so that's where I cut my teeth, learning how to play with other people. And so I fell in love with it. And then I think it was around the time I was 13, I got my first 6-string, my first electric guitar, and that was I just loved guitar ever since. Met my wife around that time. When I was 13. So we met super young. She's a musician as well. Yeah. Yep. Got married when we were 18 and 19. So we've been together a good long while, but she's a big part of that story too. She's always encouraged me, really, whatever, music dreams I have. She's like, go for it. I support you. She loves cheering me on. And that's the best thing ever. So my grandpa sold his one of his investment properties and gave each of the grandkids $1,000. And I was 15 when I got that check. And it said, I still have the note. Actually, I have a safety deposit box, and I still have the note, and it says for savings, school, etc. And so
you took that etc. to really to heart, right?
You know where this story's going. So I asked my parents. I was like, can I buy a Les Paul? My favorite guitar player at the time, he played a Les Paul, and I was like, can I buy a Les Paul? And they were
like, hold on, pause. Who's that?
Yeah. Daniel Carson. Do you know who that is?
Not familiar. No.
No. So he lives in Nashville. He plays for an artist called Chris Tomlin. And he's been with him for 20 years. It's been that guy. So I was in, still am, but was primarily in praise and worship stuff for a long time. And so, loved hearing him play and the parts he came up with. And so he had a Les Paul and a Vox, an AC30. And I was like, I need a Les Paul. Can I buy a Les Paul? And so 2 weeks after, my parents caved, and I still have it. So this was my first this was my first
Oh wait, hold on. What? Yeah. What year is this?
This was 2007 when I bought it. This guitar's a 2006. But I bought it in 2007.
Is that one of the fadeds or
these? It is one of the fadeds.
Dude, hold on.
They're amazing.
Hold
you
on,
have one too?
Yeah, just a second.
Come on. Yo. Oh, do you have a double cut?
Just a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know this is mostly an audio podcast.
All good.
I'm a mess.
I said there double cut. It's not. Look at that. Bro.
Yeah. Mine was 2003. I got it in 2005 for graduation when I was 16. So
come on. I love that. What stories we have that are so similar. That's great.
That's wild.
And you've changed out some of the hardware there, I see.
I've changed the pickups.
Okay. Yeah.
And it came with the knob or the switch tip was loose.
Okay.
It came from Guitar Center, and so I went back
mine's from.
Yeah, I went back to Guitar Center and was like, "Hey, I need a different tip," and they were like, we don't have that color, and they just grabbed one off of another random Les Paul, and they're like, "Here, you can have this one," and it's black. It's black for no reason. Yeah.
Okay.
And it looks kind of dumb being mismatched, but for me, for some reason, I was like, I like that it's stupidly mismatched for no reason, and I'm gonna leave it there.
You know, it's funny. We have the inverse because I kept did you change the? Is yours flat or is it carved? The top.
Mine's flat.
It is.
Mine's
okay.
Special.
Okay, so yours is special. So mine's not. Mine's the studio, but so yours came with the cream pickup covers. Mine still have the black ones, which is what it came with, and then I have a. Okay. So we're inverse. That's not black on mine. That one's cream on this one. So
that's funny.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
What a story!
I love this guitar. It still feels like home.
That's how I feel as well. It's like, sometimes I'll just come in my music space here and I'll just play, and that's the guitar. Whenever I pick it up, it's like, it doesn't matter how old the strings are. If it's not set up well, it just feels like, it was the only thing I played for 6 years, probably is the only instrument I had that I played on a consistent basis.
Maybe even longer than that for me. I played on it forever, and I still love it.
Man, me too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
anyway, interrupted the story, but
no,
yes.
It's okay. It's okay. That's a great interruption. So same time I got that, I got my first pedal ever from ProGuitarShop.com. I remember watching Andy, the demos he used to do for them, and it was the Full Drive 2, the MOSFET version had just come out. So that was the first pedal I ever bought. Pretty sweet first pedal, if you ask me.
I think so.
Yes. And then, soon after that, I was buying all kinds of stuff. And really ever since then, every extra penny I've had has just gone towards gear. So, let's see here. Fast forward, I'm probably taking too long to tell you my backstory.
No. This is a podcast. It gets weird when you stop talking. That's what I tell people. Yeah.
Good. Okay. I won't stop talking. Okay. So my first job ever was at a local music shop here called Mountain Music Shop. If anyone in the Kansas City area is listening, they maybe remember that shop. It was super cool. So I worked there for 4 months, and then the IRS came and shut them down, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
They had some tax stuff going on. So I was like 16. I got a phone call one day, and they were like, hey, don't come in. We don't know if we're going to reopen. It's not you, it's us. I was like, oh no, I just got fired from my first job ever. Well, come to find out, it wasn't my fault, really. It was actually them. So
you embezzled money. That's why the IRS was there, right? That's what's going on.
I didn't. I don't know if they did.
Somebody did.
Oh, man.
Somebody's embezzling.
That's right. No, I think it was an amazing shop. I think they probably just, hard times and couldn't keep up. And, that's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, the owner and that whole crew has such a great reputation on the area. People are like, oh, I love that shop. So it's cool to get to be there. So in that 4 months I was there, I bought gear there as a 16-year-old. I remember coming home one night and I told my parents, I was like, I bought a guitar today. And they're like, what? I said it was a G&L ASAT, a tribute. We were a G&L dealer at the time. And and I was like, I bought a guitar today. It was half my paycheck. And my dad was like, what? Why don't you talk to us about this? And as a 16-year-old, I'm like, I don't know. It's my money. Why? Yeah. Why do I need to ask you about that? It's gear. I love gear. Pops. Yeah. Come on. So they weren't actually mad, but that was just the common thing for me. Just like, oh, I got extra money and buy gear. So constantly buying and selling pedals, mostly on the gear page at this time. And then started playing in a band, traveled a little bit. Around, would just like go do weekend runs, and then went to a community college here in town. So decided I wanted to work with audio, and so there was a great program. So by this point, my wife and I are married. We're 18 and 19, and I start community college, and I'm studying audio engineering here at this super cool program. It's a great program, this little community college here. And I fall in love with that whole process, the recording process, being in the studio, making music, which I've already, been a part of, but just like really starting to understand some of these things that I've heard on records and Yeah, it was an amazing environment. And so spent 2 years in that program, graduated. And then while I was there, I got to work on, I had a small circuits class.
Okay.
And so I built a pedal. That was the first pedal I ever built. And I decided, I was like, I want to build audio gear. And so I had this bright idea to go to electrical engineering school at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas, and study electrical engineering. And so my wife and I moved out there, and it was not what I thought it would be. Electrical engineering and building audio equipment is there's smart people that build audio equipment, and I was not smart enough to do that at all, not even close. So I dropped out my second semester, barely passed my classes, ended up dropping out of calculus. There was just so much going on, and I was just like, this is not for me. And so I promise this will all land. My wife was a photographer at the time, full time, and she was like, why don't you just join me full time and we'll just do this photography thing. So I dropped out of school, took a big old leap of faith, and just started a business together, and did that for 6 or 7 years. And so that was the better part of my 20s, I would say, taking photos. We were wedding photographers. And so that whole time I'm still playing music, but not really doing anything in the studio, recording, not continuing on that education that I had,
right.
really. And I was totally fine with that, So about 4 years ago, I guess it would be 2018, maybe 2019, we decided that we didn't want to do the photo thing anymore. And so I ended up getting a job with a filmmaker in Lawrence who, super talented dude, still great friends with him. I got to start kind of back into post-production audio stuff with him. But we do stuff with TV networks, the NFL, if you saw stuff on TV where it was ads of, or not ads, but interviews with Mahomes or whatever. We'd be the camera crew that would go and do that stuff. And so I was doing a lot of stuff for him, but on film sets, I would kind of slide into the role of the location audio guy. And so built out this really cool kit, would go and do that stuff, and then did as much post-production as I could. And that's when I kind of fell back in love with the post-production thing. And again, still playing music and stuff, and always will. But then pandemic hit, and yeah, right. So we had just come off of the company I was working with. It was myself, my boss, and then another guy who was full-time. We had just come off of doing this really cool film on Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. It was a 30 for 30 with ESPN. And we were like, dude, this is going to be awesome. We're going to have a ton of work. We're going to do these cool projects. What's the next documentary we're going to work on? And COVID hit, and all of the contracts went away. All the work went away. And so
wow.
My boss was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. I can't afford to keep you on. I was like, I totally get it. And so I was connected to Josh through a couple of friends. There's a recording studio right next to JHS. Zane, shout out to Zane Callister, amazing producer, amazing friend. He has a studio next door there, or a space in the studio next door there. So he was texting Josh. He was like, hey man, you need to get connected with this Addison guy. I think he could be a really good fit for your team. And then another mutual friend of mine and Zane's, and then a real close friend of mine, Chet Kiefer, great musician, just an amazing friend. He's flips gear like you and I drink water. He just goes through guitars, and I love it. I love, I've gotten to play so many things because of Chet, but he also was doing some stuff, some deals with Josh at the time. He was actually selling him a version 1 Timmy, with the perf board. Josh was looking for this particular model, and so I guess they met up, and he was like, hey, you need to get connected with this Addison guy. I think he'd be a great fit. And so, excuse me. And so Josh was like, dude, 2 people are telling me, let's have this guy in and we'll interview him. So it was crazy, the timing of everything. I went less than 24 hours without a job, unemployed during the pandemic, which is amazing. I mean, so many people, our close friends have terrible stories of losing of losing their jobs and losing their work. I didn't. I just, it was like my last day, and I had a weekend off, and had another Monday off, and then went to work for JHS. And so that's my story of how I ended up at JHS. And then
what were you doing there at first?
So hold on, let me take a sip of water here.
Getting parched. It happens.
I don't ever talk this much. So the hire initially, I remember the meeting with Josh and Nick. It was like, hey, you do all these different things. You've touched, photo and film and audio and post-production, all that stuff. And you're a musician. We would just love to hire you on to be a part of the show. We don't know what your job's going to look like. And so I was like, okay, that's fine.
Oh, wow. So you were hired specifically for the show. Whereas if I remember correctly, Nick started out like building stuff and kind of transitioned into, being on the show. You were hired specifically for the show. That's cool.
That's sure was. Cool. Yeah, it was, again, just a timing thing. They had gotten to a point where they were kind of like week to week on content. And I mean, know how it is being a content creator. Yeah.
It's like, very familiar. Yeah.
When it's one or two people, you can really only do so much. And so they're like, hey, it's time for our team to grow. And so I came in with, I think I was the first like show specific hire, but Katie, who's there, she's, she handles like brand stuff for us. She was also doing some show stuff as well. And so, where's I going with this story? Yeah, Nick started out with Josh just building stuff, moved up through the ranks, and then kind of, pitched this idea to Josh. He's like, why don't we start a YouTube channel? And Josh is so passionate about teaching and about sharing the knowledge that he knows. He loves pedals. I mean, it's obviously very clear. And so he said, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do it. And so they just, built this thing, I think for like 2 years before I was there. And so I kind of just stepped into a pretty dang well-oiled machine already. And at least something that was like, it had an identity, it had a direction. And I stepped into that, and really, I kind of ended up being just a good fit for the team and what, needed to happen. It's funny, when they hired me, they didn't know I played bass. And so
secret superpowers in there.
Right. And up to this point, I was playing guitar primarily. Like I hadn't touched a bass in years, really. And so that was my kind of like, back to 11-year-old me, that was the first electric instrument that I got. But I hadn't picked up a bass in years. And so we were filming one day. It's like one of the first few days that we were filming, and they were jamming. And I was like, hey, like, I play bass as well. Do you want me to try, jamming along with you guys? And so it was one of those moments where they were like, let's see what this kid's got, And so, so I jumped in, and it was great. And so it just kind of became a thing. I was the bass player of the JHS show. That was really just that simple. It was like, hey, this seems like I think I can fill it. And so here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. Yep.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Maris Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services, and it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. Was it intimidating at all going from like doing a lot of behind the scenes camera work, you know, to, I mean, that's a very popular YouTube channel. In fact, I've told people before, I'm like, they have a lot of subscribers, right? They do. Yeah. But their viewership versus their subscribers is much higher than other channels with a similar subscriber count. It's kind of wild to see how many people actually tune in and watch these shows. Yeah. Versus, like, don't get me wrong, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are subscribed to it, but when you compare it to other channels, why is the viewership so much higher? And it's because it's awesome, but it's pretty fascinating to see. Was it intimidating at all to go from behind the camera to in front of the camera a lot more with that many eyeballs on you all of the sudden? Yeah, I mean, it still is, to be honest. I don't particularly enjoy, you know, like even today, it was like, oh man, like I hope I don't sound like a dummy on your Blake's podcast here. It still is, to be honest. I wouldn't call myself like, you know, Josh and Nick are so great on camera. I wouldn't call myself great on camera. I've grown to enjoy some of the aspects of it, but if I'm being completely honest with you, man, I still get nervous. Like when we film like the Just Try stuffs and we're like sitting there talking, you know, at the table, Nick and I together, and it's just like, okay, what are you going to say? Think about it. And then it's like, okay, action, we're rolling. And I'm like, crap, I can't remember anything that we just talked about. I'm sorry. Right. You know, so that, you know, that's a reality, but it's fun. It's very fun. And I've learned so much. Yeah, and they're awesome. They're patient with me. I got to be honest, and I don't know if I told you guys this. I feel like I did. I feel like I maybe told you. When I came there to do the live, I don't really get nervous about like speaking in front of people, and I've gotten more comfortable on camera, even though I'm not really in front of the camera all that often. It's mostly audio. Right. But I was a little bit nervous about doing that, mostly because that was the first time I had played together in a band type setting with anyone in like 5+ years. Really? I play by myself all the time. But like actually jamming with people, free jamming the way we did, I hadn't done that in forever. And I was never really good at improvising. So when you were like, are you comfortable jamming? I was like, yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Dude, you did great. It's going to be fine. Great. You sounded awesome. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. It was. You kept it easy for me. So it was like, all right, I can find some things in here. I can throw some nonsense in here and it'll be okay. Man. But yeah, I was like, I know Dustin's going to hear this. He's a big supporter of the podcast and the gear world in general. This guy buys gear from everybody. But he picked me up to go to the airport. Okay. And I got in it and he was like, you did great. I was out in the parking lot watching it, you know. He brought me barbecue. It was wonderful. Shout out Dustin. He's the best. Dude, what, is Dustin in Kansas City? He is. Yep. Oh, cool. Okay, so you know Dustin. That's great. Yeah. Oh, awesome. And so that was the first time we'd met in person, which was wild because we've talked on the internet for a jillion years, it feels like. But I was like, I haven't played with anybody in forever. And the first time I do, it's all these people are watching me. I was like, dude, woo. But man, that was so fun. It was such a cool experience. So when Josh asked me to come do that, I was like, absolutely, I'm going to come do that. We had a great time. It was fantastic. That's so good, man. I tell you what, playing and Nick's amazing. I've gotten to work on a bunch of like his stuff outside of work with him. But playing with Josh is like, he might be one of the best musicians that I'll ever get to play with. And I'm not just saying that to like be, you know, like suck up or whatever. That's not where my head's at. I think Rhett Scholl actually said that Josh Scott is the internet's best
or best but least well-known guitar player. I don't remember the analogy he said, but he basically was like, he's so underrated. And I agree. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like playing with him. I mean, playing with both of them, honestly, like I'm so much better of a musician today, 2.5 years into working at JHS than I was back then, because like they're just great musicians and they have like called me up, so to speak. And so, yeah, playing with better people is a great way to get better.
Yeah, I think Josh is funny because I think it's because he's publicly said that he's not that great of a guitar player so many times. He might even believe that himself
he probably
at this
does.
point. And it's like, he's like, oh, I'm not that good. And I was watching him. I'm like, I mean, you're not like, it's not like Yngwie Malmsteen rip your face off stuff. It's like very solid, very in the pocket, and he knows where he's going to go.
Yes, he does. Yep.
I didn't know where I was going to go. I was like, here, let's slide to that. Oh, it's in tune. It's in key. All right, good. Lucky me.
Thank goodness.
Dodged that bullet.
Man.
Yeah.
He's a working man's guitar player is what I call him. And I mean that in like with the utmost respect. Like there's people that can shred, but you know, maybe they can't find the best part for the song. Josh always finds the best part of the song. And it's like, it's awesome. It's cool to get to be a part of, really. I like, a couple years ago, I would never have expected or anticipated to be where I am now. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. So you guys have gotten to go out and see a lot of things and do a lot of things too as a result of the show. And a lot of that hasn't even came out yet. I remember you guys talking about some of the things you were doing when you were there, and I still haven't seen that stuff.
Yes.
So obviously there's an archive going on.
Yes.
Have there been any experiences that you can talk about that you were like kind of like, I gotta pinch myself. Am I away? Like, am I here right now? Is there anything you can talk about in that that line of thinking?
Yes, I'm just gonna do it, and I'll ask for forgiveness later.
Okay.
if I'm not supposed to. So I think one of the coolest things, we went to Kalamazoo last year, and prior to the release of the Pack Rat, the idea was to go do this huge push of like learning information about the Rat and the history of the Rat. So the Rat is from Kalamazoo, Michigan, right? That's where Proco's factory was, and so we went up there to interview about 7 or 8 folks that all at one point worked for Proco, and all of them still in the area. And so we got to sit down and see some pretty insane collections of people's like Rat collections. There's a guy that came that has like every version of the Rat and stuff Josh doesn't have, and like super
gotta kill
cool.
him.
It was pretty wild, man. It was wild to see some of this stuff. And Josh is like, he kind of gets this like, oh, man, I got to find one of those, you know? I think by this point he has found all of the things that he, you know, had hoped he'd find. But that was amazing to get to go and hear people's stories. Like, I can't recall her name. That's terrible. This one of the, she went by, was it Kathy maybe? But she was this sweet, sweet lady who just loved building pedals. And that's what she did. She's not a musician at all, but like she spent her entire career building pedals at Proco and just loved it. And so hearing those people talk about the company they worked for and the, you know, now looking back in hindsight and seeing this really influential pedal for, you know, culture, music culture, and ultimately influencing culture as a whole. That's what music does, right? Hearing these people that are just normal people like you and I, you know, they have families, they sleep, they go to the bathroom, like they're just normal people, but hearing their stories about, you know, building and being a part of this legacy, so to speak, it's really special. And so I'd say that's probably the coolest thing for me is like getting to meet people. There was another trip that we went and interviewed, was the first trip I went on with Josh and Nick, but we went and interviewed the founders of DOD. So David.
So cool.
Yeah, man, that was amazing to go and listen to those guys talk and get to hear their stories. And again, it's like, you know, when they talk about them, they're thinking about, they're just like, yeah, like, this is just what we did. It was our business, you know, and then we designed this pedal and we got the, you know, the what do you call it? the manual basically for how the op amp worked, right? This new part that changed distortion, and so or overdrive distortion, and they're like, yeah, we built this pedal around this thing, and it did this it did this made this sound, and that sound influenced the world. And it's like, it's so cool to hear just these normal people really talk about something that that changed history.
Well, it's funny because, I'm sure you run into this quite often, as I do, but, you get out into, with normal people, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
And they're like, so what do you do? Mm-hmm. I'm always like, how do I explain this? Like I talk to people on the internet about things that
about
guitars do, and I'm like, I like like a lot of pedal companies, and they're like, what's a pedal? And I'm like, I always be like, like a wah-wah pedal. But I know that they think in their head, they're like, wow, it's all wah-wah pedals? That's a lot of wah-wah pedal, and it's like, it's so hard. It's funny. It's funny to us because it's part of the day-to-day life, and we know that people get super passionate about this stuff. Yeah. But most people have no idea what a guitar pedal even is.
That's true.
And but yet it's actually impacted their lives in ways that they don't fully like. You can point to a million bands, just like Smashing Pumpkins. Wouldn't sound the same without the op amp Big Muff, and people know that. Like, wow, they have a unique sound, especially on those early records. That's a crazy sound. How did they get it? But they don't know that it's all that pedal. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
And so the way that this somewhat like niche unknown thing has impacted culture at large, I mean, I guess that's the whole basis for the pedal movie, right? It's just such a weird, it's such a weird niche within the niche. And
it is.
To find ourselves like in this weird position where, I think you and we grew up like listening to all this music and wondering how it was created and, wanting to do it so badly. Yeah. And now we're on the other side of things where we're helping people discover how to do it. Yeah. And it's such a treat and a weirdly cool position to be in, but it's not something I ever saw coming,
Yeah. Man, what a perspective. Like, it is really a treat. It's a privilege. Like this morning we played a game of Critical Rig, this thing that Nick came up with. It's like D&D with guitar pedals, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, how weird and how cool that that I get to go do that. Like I said, I wouldn't have imagined 2 years ago. You're like, oh yeah, you're gonna be a part of the JHS show, and because we weren't doing those live streams when I started.
That's somewhat recent, right? Like a year or so.
I'd say we're about a year and a half in. So we now it's become a regular thing, but. Yeah, all I have to say, it's like it's this weird niche thing that is so impactful, and it's funny that other people in the world enjoy it as much as we do. Like you mentioned, like our viewership to subscriber ratio. We've actually like our analytics show us that the majority of folks that watch our content are actually subscribed to our channel, and so what's really cool is that there's like a community, and they're subscribed to way more channels than just ours, but there's a bunch of people that just really enjoy this stuff as much as we do, that'll sit and listen to content for hours. I mean, like Josh and Nick will give me trouble all the time. They're like, oh, like Addison nerding out about gear still. We have a Christmas party every year, and they hand out t-shirts with a saying. And my first Christmas t-shirt was, I still love gear. And this was 6 months in, but they were like, we're going to break you. Like you're not going to love gear anymore. And it's like, actually 2.5 years in, man, like I got more pedals than I did back then. I got more gear I love it. I love it. It's so fun.
It's funny because I keep thinking like, and sometimes it does happen. It's like, oh, I'm getting a little long in the tooth and kind of jaded about, oh, good, cool.
Oh, no.
All right, sweet. There's another pedal release. Oh, whoop-de-doo. And then something will come out.
Yeah.
What's the last one? The Maris LVX will come out. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and I'm like right back there, Like
I gotta have that.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna. They were like, yeah, do you want to be a part of the release? I was like, let me check my pulse. Am I live? Yeah, of course I want to be a part of the release. Let's go, And
Dude.
so those are the times where I know I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna be actually over this. If I'm not over it by this point, it's never going away, which is kind of cool.
It is cool. It's cool to have that thing. Like, I bought my first guitar pedal 15 years ago. I'm like, I haven't stopped buying them. Let's see, I got one in this week. I got a Leela volume pedal. Like I bought that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not going to stop. They're so fun. And I love making music with them. I love making sounds. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I've told this story 4 million times. I'm sure the listeners are getting sick of hearing about it, but
I haven't heard it.
You haven't heard it. So there you go. So I got to a point in 2021 where I was like, it became all about the gear. Everything musical that I did was about the gear, and it was about showing what something sounded like or telling people about it or whatever the case may be. It became all about the thing and not about the music. It wasn't that for me anymore. And I didn't like that.
Wow.
And that was when I was really getting jaded. I was like, oh, here's another thing, just so stupid. It's just a stupid way to even think. But I guess you do anything long enough, something happens. But
yes.
I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Stop worrying about that. Just make a record. Just make music to make music. You have this absurd shed with an absurd, you can make every sound that you could possibly think of with a guitar.
Yeah.
And just grab whatever you want without the thought that like, oh, I need to show chorus this time, or I need to show overdrive this time. Like, just grab it if it does the thing you want to do. Get rid of it if it doesn't, pull something out. Just make a record. Don't worry about what you're using on it. And of course, I ended up using insane effects chains that were just absolutely ridiculous.
Because
I could. Yeah. And that became the whole record. I was playing pedals more than I was guitar. But it really reignited, like, just make music, man. Like, don't get so wrapped up in the gear that you lose sight of why you even. I didn't know what a guitar pedal was the first time I got heard of chunky power chord and got inspired. I didn't know what that was.
Right.
So that's cool, and I want to do it.
Yeah.
So and I think that can be important for all of us gear people to remember. Why did we start doing this in the first place?
Man, that's funny. Like, that makes me think of it. It was another COVID story. I follow this guy named Richard Bailey. He's a drummer in LA, a session guy. And he was talking about this idea of, he put into words something that I think many musicians feel. And that's like the idea of music feeling pretty meaningless if you're not doing it with others. And it reminds me of this quote from Into the Wild. It's a great movie. He just says, life's meaningless unless it's shared. And so I feel that way about music, honestly. And I know I'm not saying that, making music in your room by yourself and never sharing it with anybody is bad. I'm not saying that at all. But I think it's so much more powerful and impactful when you do share it with other people and you do release it. And you are one of my favorite things. As much as I love gear, there's still nothing that I love more than playing music with other people. And I get to do that pretty regularly, both with my job and outside of work. But man, there is just something about, and I'm not even talking about performance and people clapping for me because I did a good job. It's the interaction between two humans that aren't perfect that somehow create something really cool together. Man, I just feel like that is so meaningful and so impactful. I think music's one of the most powerful things that we have in life.
Oh, I absolutely believe that to be true. Because, it accents everything, right?
Yeah.
And there's moments in everybody's life where you remember the song that you were listening to at a particular moment, or you remember something happened and then this happened and then this note hit at just the right time.
Right.
Or you're jamming together and it's the jam session's not going very well, everyone. And then somebody's just noodling on this riff. You're like, wait, what's that? Oh, it's this thing I just been doing. And there's so many there's only 12 notes, right?
Right.
And then there's just infinite shades within there that it's really something else.
It is.
It impacts everybody.
Yep.
Everyone that can hear anyway, I guess.
Yep. It's true. It's, and even those that can't, I would argue, my brother.
That's true. They can feel it.
Exactly. Yeah. My brother's, he is been a sign language, in a past career. So he worked with a lot of deaf folks, and he would even talk about the power of music to some of them. They'd go to concerts and they would just lean up against subs and feel, the music. That's to them, that's enjoying, and enjoying the thing that we're enjoying just in a different way,
That's true.
Yeah, it's so powerful. My wife and I have had the privilege of visiting different countries, and not like there being a language barrier, but like, they would sing our songs in their language, and we would sing, their songs in our language, and it was like it didn't matter that we didn't quite understand what the lyric was saying, even though we could think of the lyric in English in our heads. But it was like, man, I know that song. I know that melody. It's the same thing. It's just like it transcends language and culture,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny when you think about it too, because you can see it, and it's like the only truly universal language there is, you can see it on people's faces.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I know that feeling. I don't know what that guy said. I have no idea what he just said, but I know that feeling. We all have been there. It's truly something special. And, my friend, Devon Whitaker, I don't know if you've seen his channel. It's Devon Blue. He's got like the blue gloves, and he does all you've got to check out his channel.
I haven't
seen it.
No.
It's wild.
Okay.
He does these crazy cinematic demos and stuff. And
dude,
he's one of those guys, like his first demo was shot on an iPhone. It was the Cooper Effects. Which one was it? I can't remember. One of the first Cooper Effects pedals.
Okay.
And he shot it on his phone. And when he told me he shot it on his phone, I was like, what? How? He's just got that. And now he's got all this crazy gear. But like the first one he did on his phone, and it's just amazing looking. Wow. Like he's so good at video. But, he's talking about that creators like ourselves, like musicians of any sort, sometimes I think we take advantage of, or it's not advantage, we take for granted the fact that we can do this because we've been doing it for so long.
It's true, man.
Most people can't do it.
Yeah.
And we're surrounded by musicians. So we're always like, kind of like Josh is downplaying he's like, oh, I'm not that good, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know, show somebody who can't play at all what you can do. Yeah. And they're going to be like, you're ridiculously good. Yeah. It's, it's something we all, I think, because we're all surrounded by it 24/7, that we tend to downplay our own abilities. And he actually would argue that there's some level of responsibility to put things out there. And I could see why there might be a debate to that.
Yep.
But I also see his point. It's because he's basically saying, to summarize, like, you need to do it because others can't.
Man.
And it's an interesting perspective. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby, because let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblinssaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
I love that thought. I've actually been thinking both those things. The first being what you said about the gift that we have that some people don't have. Like, it's funny. I was editing a video this morning, and I was at the jam portion of the video, and Josh went from picking, and he put the pick away, and he did some finger picking stuff. And the way his hand brought the pick back, I replayed that because I was like fascinated by the motor skills in his hands to be able to do that. And so I often will, even when we're like playing on the show or something, like I'll look at my hands and I'll see the movement and I'll go, man, what a privilege, like that my hands can function and do this. And it's muscle memory and it's time and it's, practice. But the truth is, like, man, it's just like a gift that I have. And so that's another thing. Like, actually, man, I do feel that responsibility to, like, I have a gift and there's, greater gifted people out there than me. I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying that I'm, like some amazing whatever. I'm just saying, like, I'm agreeing with you. It's kind of important, man, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's with your family or whether it's making records with your friends or going on tour, and playing arenas. I don't know, but use your gift. I love that. That gets me excited. Yeah.
I think sometimes we need to think back to when we first started.
Yeah.
And like how hard a power chord was.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, man, my fingers hurt. I can't quite do it. You're fretting out and like buzzing, and like how hard it used to be to do things that now you don't even think about. You just throw a G up.
Yes.
Like, you don't even think about it now.
Yeah.
But like that used to be so difficult. It used to be, and some people never get past that phase of the challenge, you know?
It's true.
And in fact, most people don't, I think. I think most people who pick up instruments don't stick with it. But
true.
For some reason, we're just stubborn and weird, and we we decide to power through.
Well, it's because the gear is the end point for us, and music is means to an end, which is the gear. So
that's true. That's true. Really, it's all about fuzz pedals.
Yeah. Right. Wait, no, that's completely opposite of everything that we just said. Wait, I don't.
No. It's all about fuzz pedals. Ultimately.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, JHS ones specifically. Yeah. That's what I hear.
That's funny.
So, one thing I wanted to ask you. So, you're obviously, like, the show's your main thing. That's what you do.
Yep.
Do you take part in? Obviously, I think. When I was there looking, it was almost like there was two departments. There was the pedal making department and there was the, media department.
Yep.
But obviously those two intermix and ideas combine, and, you've got to know when releases are happening and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But what does it actually look like to come up with some of the ideas for pedals? Things like the bonsai and like all these really creative, cool ideas. Do you have any input on that? Does it come from your jam session sometimes? Does it come from just staring at these walls of 4,000 plus pedals and just dreaming up stuff? Like, where does that stuff materialize from in the actual product side?
I can't speak to where things came from in the beginning for Josh. I've heard him talk a lot about it, just basically, being a guitar player, hearing a sound, hearing that modded pedal, and then going, well, how can I get that sound? Figuring that out. And then from there, just slowly, one circuit after another. I don't really I'm not like the idea guy in any way for products. Honestly, even really for content. What's really cool though about my job, I do primarily work with the show. There's a couple other things that I get to do at JHS, one of which being, we call it approval team, but I get to give feedback on all of the stuff that's in process. And so there's been, a number of things I've gotten to go, hey, I hear this, I don't really enjoy this, or I love this. Maybe we could, maybe the knob could do a little bit more of it. So I've gotten to, ever since I started really, I've gotten to give feedback really on that stuff. And so, as far as where ideas come from, man, I think you nailed it on the head. I think it's, being, influenced by a room of, 4,000 or 5,000 pedals that, have a ton of history behind them. And Josh is just passionate. A lot of it, is being able to give people, some things that they'd never get to play otherwise if
Mhm.
you know
Oh,
there weren't
yeah.
modern versions of it, because like we've got one of the 1.5 Mark, let's see, how do you say that? What's the proper way? Mark 1.5 tone
I think
bender?
so. Yeah.
Okay, is that
Mhm.
it? We have one
Yeah.
of those in the museum. That's, you can't go buy that. I certainly can't go buy that. You know, and
No.
so it's cool to get to, you know, build pedals for people that that wouldn't get to have that experience otherwise. And there's a ton of other people out there that do it, and you know, obviously a big part of our show is talking about those people too. But I think, man, it's just a passion for you know, history and how history affects or how pedals affect, you know, history as a whole, culture as a whole. And so I don't think Josh will ever quit. I mean, I think he'll go to the I think he will go to the grave, man, just trying to make the coolest stuff possible.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, I do have a few more questions before we wrap
Okay.
up this
Hit
main
me.
episode. But
Great.
before I get to those classics
Mhm.
and you know, give you your chance to kind of shine on your own,
Okay.
I have one question I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
What's with the crook?
Oh,
Jordan's been on the
dude.
show.
Has he?
And yeah, he's a great dude.
Cool.
And we talked about it pretty extensively. But like, what made you fall so hard for the crook?
Okay, so if there's anybody out there right now that's like, oh man, he doesn't actually really love that pedal. He just talks about it a lot because, you know, poison noise
Because
is
it's funny, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So not the case. So Jordan reached out to me on Instagram like a year and a half ago. Maybe not quite so long. I don't remember when it was. Timing is not super important. What I do know is at the time, he was like, "Can I send you a pedal?" And we had started live streams by this point. I was, you know, playing bass. We have this overdrive that works really well on bass. And so I said, yeah, go ahead and send it to the shop, and Josh will add it to his collection. And so I think Jordan actually meant to send me a pedal that I could have and keep. Well, so he sends it in, and I try it on bass and just genuinely fall in love with it. It does a thing that, so I do a lot of post-production audio now, both at work and then outside of work, mixing stuff. And it does a thing in a pedal that I'm usually trying to do with plugins. And it's really just this upper harmonic content that helps your signal push through a little bit, right? So if you're listening on a phone, it doesn't reproduce every frequency below, you know, it kind of cuts off. We have this roll off around 300 hertz maybe, right? So you don't have low end. Well, how do we hear this low end? It's like upper harmonic content in these instruments. So you hear them, you don't feel them. Bass is usually felt. And so that pedal gave me this content that I'm always kind of looking for and hunting for. And so I don't have it on all the time, but I certainly use it, I mean, a ton. And so it became such a fun thing. It was a joke for a little while, and then it was like, oh, this is, you know, that kind of a real thing. And it was like funny. And now it's just like, no, I actually genuinely think it's a great pedal. I have two of them. I have one with my face on it, which is like, when that came in, they're like, cool. So is this like your 2-week notice, or have you reached the pinnacle of, you know, I have a pedal with my face on it that another company made. How cool is that? So, yeah, man, that's the story behind it. I think they make great stuff. I've got a whole set. They were so generous. Jordan's like, dude, I would love to send you our whole line. Could I send it to you? And I have it. It's over here to my right. And all of their pedals are awesome. Like, they're really cool. Genuinely, they make great quality, great sounding pedals. And so that's the story. It's awesome. I love it.
They do. I've got a seesaw here, and I love it.
Oh, sick. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yep.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And he was a really fun interview. He has a really cool story. If nobody's heard that yet, go back and listen to his episode, because I really enjoyed talking to him. And I know he listens to this show, so he's going to hear that as well. So, hi, Jordan.
Hi, Jordan. Thanks for your great pedals, man. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right. Okay. Here we go. We're getting into the end of the show.
Okay. All right. It's been so fun.
Yeah, this is a good chat. This is a lot of fun. I knew it would be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we get into the classic questions, I like to give the guests the opportunity to take the floor. You can shout out your grandma. You can say whatever you want to say. You can plug anything you want to plug. You can this is you. You're talking to a couple thousand people, which you do all the time, but you know.
Do I
now
want
you
to
can say whatever.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't know what to say, man. I'm looking around my room, like thinking, will something inspire me?
Something might.
Okay.
Oh, he's going for something. Oh no!
I've talked about it a bunch, but I'll talk about it again. This is my favorite pedal. Go buy one if you don't have one. This is the best thing ever. This is an Analog Man modded Deluxe Memory Man, but this is the tap tempo version. We're on a gear podcast. This is a cool story. Can I tell a story?
Tell a story. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the one with the Panasonic chips in it, right? That are supposedly superior. I don't know if that's the case,
Magical.
But they're definitely yeah. They're worth more. I know that much. My wife and I were on a vacation. We were driving through Springfield, Missouri, headed to Arkansas in 2014, and I read a rumor that there was a new old stock batch of these being released. And so I went into a couple music stores in Springfield, and I said, "You don't happen to have one of these, do you?" And they're like, "No, but you should call Chicago Music Exchange. I bet you if anybody got one, it'd be them." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." So I walk out and I go call CME, and I think the guy's name is Adam. He picked up, and I asked him, and he goes, "We actually have one, and it's not even in our system yet." And it had like gotten there the day before or that day. I don't know what the timing was. All I know is that the public didn't see it. So I bought it right then and there. So
nice.
That's my best gear story. Also, hi, Mom and Dad.
There you go.
They're not going to listen to this.
They might. You never know.
It's possible.
You never know.
They watch the show.
They're like, that's our little boy. He's on the Tone Mob podcast,
That's true.
The third biggest. No, it's not. I don't even know what it is.
I believe it is. I believe it is. Don't sell yourself short, man.
I have no idea how the rankings shake out on that. Well, you know what? If the guitar nerds get to sit there and say that they're the number one guitar podcast and they're not even in the music category, Joe Branton, then I'm going to say shenanigans on that. I'm the number one because I feel like it today. Right. I feel like number one, therefore I am. How about that? Man,
I feel that with you, and I agree. So we're together, two in spirit, stronger than one.
There's no one else here right now,
true.
So no one can tell us we're wrong. That's right.
That's so good, man. Well, yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you for having me on, man. That's the other shout out. Shout out to you. You're awesome, man. Thanks for thanks for having me on. This has been really fun.
Of course. Yeah, now I feel like I definitely got to have Nick on because I kind of jumped over him. I did Josh and then I did you and now I got to get Nick. So
dude, do it. And honestly, more shout out. Driller and Joshua are both really and they're really a huge part of the team as well. So it's kind of like we're like a 5-6 piece team at JHS that works on marketing and content and stuff. Katie's a part of that as well, but those two guys too. So they're interesting. They'll be a different conversation than Nick or Josh and me. And so, man, get all of them on here. Yeah. I'm sure they'd love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I got to say, like, I felt when I left, I felt kind of weird because I didn't really. I met Joshua basically on the air, essentially. Like, we didn't really talk beforehand. And then I felt like I was just kind of making fun of him, like, immediately when we didn't really have that kind of, we didn't really have a relationship. So, like, it's like this guy just showed up and started making fun of me on the air for some reason when he has. And I was like, it's not really what I would normally do. But I felt like I was just kind of dogpiling on with everybody else. I was like, yeah, Joshua. So there. So sorry, man. I didn't mean it.
Nah, man, he's a great sport. You didn't. I promise you didn't hurt his feelings.
It didn't seem like it. Seemed like he was enjoying it. So
that's great.
All right, final questions. Here we go.
Okay, let's go.
All right, I'm gonna be very curious to hear from you since you've gotten to play so much stuff on this.
Okay.
One.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Hands down. Okay, well, I shouldn't say hands down because I had to think about it for a hot second. The number one for sure is the VB2. Now I own my pedal boards are right here. I own the Waza version, which I put a piece of gaff tape over the Waza logo because I want it to look like the old ones. I can't afford a real one, and I probably won't ever just because they literally sound the same. I have played them side by side by this point. Man, Boss is my favorite pedal company. Josh actually said it the other day too. That's his favorite pedal company. But I also
think we knew that already. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe you already. Yeah. He talks about him a lot, right?
It seems like if I could have guessed that if he hasn't said it yet.
For sure. For sure. It's a close second is the Boss DD5. I'm a huge fan of that.
Oh, the DD5.
Love that. Yes.
Usually people go DD3, so you're going DD5. Why do you like the DD5 better?
All the music I play usually needs like synchronized tempos, and so that was I don't know if it was like the first tap tempo digital delay. It probably wasn't the first, but
it might have been.
Maybe
it really might have been.
It's like 94, 95, I think mid 90s that it came out. It kind of does a thing, and I don't know. So there was a rumor that was floating around for a long time, and probably still is that it sounds the way it sounds because there's a part that's overloaded or overheated in the pedal. And I mentioned that to Josh one day, and he goes, "Man, we're talking about Boss here. Do you think that they really would have let something out of their factory that had an issue like that? There was like something was overheated." So I don't know how that got started. Maybe it's true. I don't know. But there is something a little bit special to me about the repeat of a DD5. It has a weight to it. It's just a little meatier, I guess would be a word for it. It's why I like Memory Men, honestly, because they just are like, they're heavy feeling, but yet they don't really get in the way, if that makes sense. So there you go.
I don't know why that struck me as so funny. I don't think I've ever heard that before. Memory Men. It's not Memory Man's. It's Memory Men. I don't know why that hit me as really funny for some reason. Like, oh yeah, Memory Men.
That's
of course
funny.
It's Memory Men. That's
maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
I think it is. No, I think it is. It just I've never heard that before. But
it is now.
It is now. Memory Men.
That's great. You heard it on the Tone Mob podcast.
That's right. That's right. All right, final question. This is the one that gets a little dicey. People get kind of upset. Yeah, it's a big deal. So here we go.
Okay.
What's your favorite kind of pizza?
Okay, so I can't eat gluten or dairy.
Woof. That's rough. Yeah.
My favorite. I have had pizza many times in my life prior to my teenage years when I discovered I couldn't eat gluten or dairy. Pepperoni pizza, hands down.
Just regular pepperoni.
Regular old pepperoni pizza. Nothing else. I don't need any of that stuffed crust. I don't need jalapenos. I don't need black olives. And my wife's probably in the other room like, what are you talking about? I love black olives on pizza. I don't need that. I just want, and to get more specific, thin crust.
Yes.
Pepperoni pizza. Mm-hmm. Normal red sauce. Whatever the cheese, mozzarella cheese. Mm-hmm. That's the best kind of pizza to me.
I like that. I would dig in. Normally I dig in real deep and like, all right, go pizzeria, but I'm like, what if you haven't been eating pizza?
Yeah.
Then I don't feel that's fair to like grill you on the specifics of the thing you can't eat. So I'm not going to do that to you.
I have a story though. So we went to Chicago a number of years ago with some friends, and it's funny. We're actually going to Chicago next week, my wife and I together as well, to see the Killers. Woo! Woo! Super stoked about that. Anyways, that's an aside. Sorry, I had to talk about the Killers on air. Can't not. So we were in Chicago like 6 or 7 years ago and had this enormous thin crust, gluten-free pepperoni pizza. And I don't even think it had cheese on it, but it was the best pizza I have ever had in my life. And it would be in Chicago. So I don't know what it was called. I've been Googling it, to be honest with you, to try and find it again so we can go back next week. I'm going to say that's the best pizza. That's the best thing I've ever had in my life. Chicago.
Mystery gluten-free Chicago pizza. You're going to have to come back. Once you come back, you'll have to let us know what it is. Figure it out. This is your homework assignment. Yes.
Done.
Right on, man.
Sweet.
Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Let's slide over to Patreon and see what kind of weirdness can happen.
Awesome, man.
All right, everybody. For Addison, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. There you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that chat as much as I did. I'd been wanting to talk to Addison more in depth for a very long time, and I'm glad we finally were able to make it happen. We get even more into it on the Patreon section of the podcast. On that section, Addison and I get into the various weird things that have happened in our homes. We talk about bats. We talk about possums. We talk about ducks. We talk about very strange happenings in our residences that some of you may know a little about, some of you maybe don't, but it's a real thing that we've both had to deal with over the years. And for some reason, we decided to talk about it rather in depth, along with a bunch of other stuff. And if you like more conversations, if you want to go more in depth with the guests from every week, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/tonemob, where for $5 a month, you too can get access to all the back bonus episodes. And additionally, I am planning on starting to release ad-free versions of the podcast over there as well. That'll be coming very shortly. I know the ads are not everyone's favorite, but in order to keep this show free for most people, that's just what it is. I gotta feed the family. I gotta keep the lights on. I gotta keep things going. And that is a way that I can do that and still have the show be free. That should be starting up next week. I'll, of course, let everybody know in the Tone Mob Facebook group, the Tone Mob Discord, on the interwebs in any way that I can. So there you have it. I will talk to you all next week. Hope you have a good one. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hey, this is Scott from Fly on the Call. Each week I speak to a different musician, whether they're in an established band like Silverstein or the Wonder Years, or a band on the rise like Spanish Love Songs, Origami Angel, or Meet Me at the Altar. We discuss music and lyrics, the successes and challenges of being in a band, and more, as we get to the core of each artist. The show features musicians of diverse genres and backgrounds, so there's always a chance I'll be talking to your new favorite band. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.
What's up, everybody? I am Finn McKenty, host of the Punk Rock MBA podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media podcast network. My podcast is all about doing what you love for a living, and every week I sit down and talk to people who have done exactly that. For example, musicians like Tommy from Between the Buried and Me, Matt from Periphery, Lil Lotus and Shinigami, among many others, photographers, artists, designers, YouTubers like Glenn Fricker and Sarah Dici, and I unpack exactly how they got to where they are today with the goal of helping you do the same. So if that sounds cool, you can listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com, and I'll see you there.